I'll go next. My name's Bridget, and we are in Texas. We have a place up in East Texas, and we have about 80 head. We've done a cow calf operation for years, and we just are starting to do direct to market. So we've been preparing for everything, for the last 2 years, holding them back. But we're just now getting into the marketing part of that. So
Awesome.
hoping to get that kicked off.
Wonderful. Okay, who else do we have? It says lease, but it doesn't look like lease. So
Yeah, it's Brian.
Hey, Brian.
Brian Maloney. Here in Thurso, Quebec. We're right near Ottawa. With my daughter and my wife, we have a grass-fed beef and lamb operation. Plus, we custom graze. We direct market 125 steers, grass finished, 60 lambs, and about 50 hogs.
Nice. I think we've seen you. Are you kind of active on the group?
I kind of put some noise out there. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. If you are not chatting, or if you have a lot of background noise, can you mute yourself? Feel free to unmute if you want to chat though. Scott or Chris, do you want to go ahead and intro yourselves?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. I'm Chris. We raise cattle, grass-fed beef, and interested to see what I can learn here this evening.
Awesome. Can I ask how long you've been doing it?
I've been around cattle most all my life. Mom and dad had cattle in a row crop farm out in Pratt, Kansas, then moved to Missouri and just have the cattle. But got about 100 head of Angus and red Angus cows.
Thanks for joining. How about you, Scott?
I don't, can you hear me or not?
Yeah, we can hear you.
So I raise grass-fed beef using adaptive grazing. I've had a beef cow herd for approximately, well, this lasts for just a year, but I had a beef cow herd for about 10 years ago, a couple of years prior to this last one now. But just changed to 100% grass-fed beef and marketing direct to consumer.
Awesome. Cool. Margaret, did you want to have a turn? Well, I'll go real quick. I don't know if, so I have not been in this very long. I am a first generation, rancher. And so I got out of education and bought a starter herd. I'm in Montana, but kind of an hour between Bozeman and Billings, both ways. And it's a newer drought for us that we're in, and hay prices kind of made me have to destock a bit, but I think I hit the marketing hard really fast. I think some people kind of wait to build the herd, and I kind of led with marketing. So, I've enjoyed my time at the farmers market, and the online space has been, pretty good to me. So I'm just interested to learn from people who've been around cows longer than I have. But thanks for everyone for joining. So I guess, since this is a forum and there's not a real strict agenda, does anyone have anything that they're excited that they're doing as far as a success story that they wanted to share to benefit the other producers, or any questions that they wanted to ask the other producers? Bridget, you said you've been preparing for 2 years to start direct marketing?
Hey there. Well, yes, in the sense that we've been holding back our calf crop. And so really just kind of starting to market it the last 6 months or so. I guess one thing I would be curious about, and this is where we are right now, is we are about to have product. We're picking one up on this coming week. And we've had a lot of people ask us about this whole or half of beef. And so, we've kind of put a reservation on those because we haven't done it before. I'm kind of curious what the difference, I think that's obviously an easier sell, but we're also looking at having individual cuts. And so we are kind of part-time. My husband does all the ranching, and he's up there, and then we live in the suburbs outside of Houston. And so we've kind of got a unique mix of people to sell to. And so at home and where we live, a lot of people, it's neighborhood, it's neighborhood. So they don't necessarily want large amounts. We're hoping that we can do more individual cuts, but I think it may be less work to sell the wholes and the halves. So I'm just curious what other people's experiences are with that. And then also selling before you actually have the product. Because from an inventory standpoint for us, trying to figure out how much freezer space and how much inventory we're going to hold and for how long, because the process, I don't know about, I'm sure this is true everywhere, but in Texas, to get processing dates, we've been on their calendars for over a year.
Wow.
And so we have our processing dates, but just trying to time that with deliveries is a bit of a challenge. So I'm curious if anyone has any good learned experiences on that topic.
Sure. Does anyone have any like direct experience with that? Brian, maybe?
Yeah, so with 125 steers, we like to sell at least 2/3 as halves and wholes.
Okay.
We don't raise any cows, so we buy all our steers in the springtime. So the selling in the fall of 75 to 80 head in halves and quarters is great for cash flow. It's always a concern, and it's a much easier that way storage wise. I think when we're just starting, it's easy to look at keeping the margin the highest per animal, but like we want to double by 2 years, so we want to be up to 200 head. We now spend more time in marketing than we do in the production end of it. It takes us about 2.5 hours a day to do chores, and it's about 3 hours a day in marketing. So we can double production without any more time. We just let go the custom animals, but we're going to double our time in marketing. So we're still looking at how to keep things more simple. We have storage for about 15 head we can store. We can rent storage. Renting storage is really cheap and easy. When you get to a certain point, you can build another one, but the units are still quite expensive. And again, it just looks at like cash flow. Definitely, we have an on-farm store, so we sell 90, probably 95, 97% of all the product right out of the farm store. And that's always our best dollar.
Can I ask how far in advance you take your deposits for reservations on wholes and halves?
Again, I'm the retiring farmer in all this. I'm in charge of everything green and alive. So my daughter and my wife takes care of most of that. They take deposits, but not all the time. I think their deposits are always with new customers. And then when we have long-time customers, I don't think they take deposits anymore.
Okay.
But I have friends that really work just up the road for me that work on it as almost a CSA model, where they take maybe a quarter or a half of the money up front in the spring when they order the calves.
Okay. Yeah. And that's kind of what we're looking at as far as just to help with cash flow, is to take that reservation early on. And then, and that will give us a better idea, one, create a little bit more demand up front of who wants that volume, so we can schedule our process dates better. So I was curious about that. Thanks for sharing that.
So I've taken deposits for shares. I think that shares are more profitable for me because of a cash flow thing. When I have to hold on to retail cuts, there's more overhead expenses that go into them. So then when I sell them out, it's kind of cuts away at the profit margin. But yeah, so I think 3 to 4 months ahead of time has been a good spot for me, because people can see it's coming, so it's not so far out. but helps me plan a little bit. Obviously, 3 to 4 months is nothing in the processing world anymore, but you gotta, that's, we're a year out in Montana too, so. Do you have the certifications that you need for your state to sell retail already?
Yeah, in Texas, yes.
It's wildly different all over the place, what's
Mhm.
required.
Mhm.
So with the farm store, Brian, are you like located near a lot of people? How do people get to you?
We had at one time, so we were expropriated in 1976 for a major highway. Nothing happens very fast in Quebec. The highway opened in 2013. So we cursed the expropriation all those years, but then we realized when the highway opened, we became an intersection of two major highways. That's when we put the store together. The other part of that in the marketing end of it is that when we set up the store, we also set up a commercial kitchen. It's in my grandfather's old barn. We also had a wedding venue at the same time. So we were doing a lot of weddings every weekend. We were doing weddings on the farm. It became a pretty good part of the enterprise. To a point, it was 1/3 of our revenue. COVID arrived, and that was the end of the wedding business. So the first week of March 2 years ago, which is another part of the story, my daughter had just decided she was returning back from the farm. This is another one of our unfair advantages, as Alan would say. She spent the winter at Five Marys Ranch in Northern California. So that to me would probably be the best marketing farm in America, I would say. So she got along very good with Mary, and she spent the winter there. She was in managing pubs before. So that first week of March, we decided we lost 1/3 of our revenue. What do we do? So that week we doubled up on the purchases. We got doubled up in the amount of animals, and we are lucky to get the freezer slaughter space at the slaughterhouse. We're the biggest customer there, so they made a little bit of space for us. And we doubled our production that year. We focused on just selling beef. So she has a marketing background, and we attained our goals and our budgets. And the marketing aspect of this is still probably the most important and most paying job that we have on the farm.
So do you guys do, this is for the whole group, do you guys interested in or do like shipping versus delivery versus pickup? Where are people feeling there's most opportunity or having success there?
I'll speak to that. Did someone else want to go?
Go for it.
Okay. So I would love feedback on that. Obviously shipping is a bit of a challenge, and I feel like in many ways, there's enough ranchers out to where if everybody fed who was around them, we'd be in better shape. So other than shipping to, friends and family who, just want our beef, I'm hesitant on the shipping, and because it's so expensive to ship it and keep it frozen. Ours is all frozen. And so I've looked into that a little bit. Ideally, because we're in the Houston area, I think we're going to do some like doorstep delivery in little pocket neighborhoods, and we can just kind of schedule those. And then pickups. And I'm curious if you guys have heard of this. I just realized this has been going on in my neighborhood for years, and I wasn't on social media, so I never knew it. But there are actually 2 beef producers, and this is kind of a model several businesses have used for foods. They do neighborhood drops, And so basically you get an email or a text at the beginning of the week and it says place your order. And then, or you can get it once a month. And then they meet you at the park or at a rec center or at a school parking lot. And you just pull up, it's already paid for online. You pull up and you put it in their car and they go on their merry way. And so they do it in all these different developments of, suburban neighborhoods. And this is, have literally, when I started looking into doing the beef, I learned that there's two people who are doing that literally right down the street from me. And I had no idea that was even going on. So I thought interesting. I don't know if that started because of COVID or if that was going on prior to COVID.
Sure.
But they just have a minimum order and then you go to that neighborhood and it's like a 20-minute window that you're there and people meet you there and you put it in their car and away they go.
Mike,
So I'm
go ahead,
hoping
man.
to adopt that neighborhood, that role.
Yeah, for sure. Mike, I see you raised your hand. You go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry, I disconnected my audio.
No.
Yeah, we do something similar to that when we are in the Pacific Northwest, and we have 5 different drop-off locations when we do our halves and quarters. So it's not quite doing it as cuts, but we found we basically cover the entire state of Oregon with our drop-offs, and we just pick a parking lot, Lowe's or Target or whatever, and say, hey, okay, everybody in this area, we will be dropping off your orders at this location at this time, and they can either make it or they can't. So that's how we're doing that. On the delivery or the shipping part, I'm in the 5 Marys program, and she goes into very deep detail in how to deal with the logistics of shipping, and she's shipping a ton of beef all over the country.
Okay,
Hey, just
I'll look
a
into
real
that.
quick
Thank
tip I want to share with everyone. There is this really cool resource called Alder Springs, the ranch out of May, Idaho. They have a free course that is a resource for producers on how to do shipping. And I'll find the link and I'll post it. But it's very specific. It's like, this is how we do it, but they have a huge amount of success. So like, if you like their model, you can follow them. I don't know how 5 Marys says to do it, but I know that she has a course that you buy into, which is apparently very successful. And so, everybody has different apples or whatever. So it's probably different than how she does it, but I'll find the resource. And Alder Springs, they have a producer's how to shipping thing if you're interested. Go ahead, Brian.
We have it all set up to do delivery. We have an online store. Kim has it, the delivery service set up, and we found the cheapest is through the post, through mail. That's the cheapest that she could find. Our good problem is that we don't have enough product to ship. We continue selling and focusing right out of the store. Just to add to the other one about the urban drop-offs, Joel Salatin's, one of his models is you find a host person in every neighborhood, and that person takes the orders and you do one drop-off. Everything happens at that one spot. The individual is responsible for collecting the money. Now we can do it all online and distributing it, and they get a small percentage. So you drop off everything in one spot, and that seemed to work out pretty good too.
Does he call that the
Urban buying
club?
clubs.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, urban buying clubs.
Very
How does he find the right person to do it? Like, sounds pretty tricky. Like, how does he go about finding the right person?
Again, I guess you have to be out there at farmers markets and dealing with people. And, I think he was talking 10%. So it's a pretty good incentive. Probably easier now with COVID because there's a lot more people at home pretending they're working anyway. So the extra $200 or $300 they could make just to receive an order might be interesting.
I love that idea because then you don't have the set time and you got to coordinate when's the best time of the day. That's a great idea. I love that.
There's a ranch in Montana called Mannix, and they have like I think it's barn to door, and so they coordinate a route because I get their email marketing, and so they'll tell you like order deadline, and then they tell you the pickup spots. And my only thought about this, but they seem to be having a lot of success with it, is like what if someone misses their window? Like, did you delay your schedule, or do you just say, well, catch you next time? How does that work? I don't know.
I think they pick it up the next drop off.
Oh.
We have a pretty good example of that, and he's not a very good example. We have a great old rancher down east, Frank Foster. He writes in every group. He's an encyclopedia. But the thing about he has his weekly drop off, and all you ever see on Fridays and Saturdays is, sorry, I'm late. Sorry, I'm late. Sorry, I'm late. He is never on time. There's always a truck broken. There's always something happen. He is never on time. And maybe that's his gimmick. I don't know. But I've never on 1 week seen that he has made his route on time.
That's the beef mobile.
Yeah.
That's funny. Does anyone find any like profitability in farmers markets?
We've never done farmers markets. We're in a unique situation, probably from a lot of you, that we're a long ways from any markets. I don't know if anybody is like us that way, but we're very rural, and the market that we're hitting is Winnipeg. It's 4-hour drive away, like 250 miles. Yeah. And so I just don't have the time or inclination to go sit at a farmer's market in Winnipeg, and try and sell. Plus seasonal for us, winter, the farmer's markets aren't open.
Mhm.
So it's only in summer. So what we've been doing is just selling direct to consumer on an order basis only, halves and quarters, mostly some eighths. And we just do it to order, and then we just go deliver all the product to the customers. So we've never done farmers markets, but how are you guys all with your proximity to your market?
We are actually starting a farmer's market in our town to support our other business. We have we're mostly a flower farm, and we're just getting into cattle. So we've decided to start a farmer's market in our town to basically bring the clientele to us. The other farmer's market we do on the flower side, we do really well. The big hurdle for me is I don't have any local USDA processing. The closest USDA processor I've got is about 2.5, 3 hours away. And trying to get a date there is almost impossible. So I'm doing halves and quarters just for the pure fact that I can't sell cuts.
Yeah. No, that's a real issue. I'm pretty active on a lot of the groups, and I was like comparing prices, sometimes we do. And I'm like I love our local processor, and we're lucky to have them. They do a good job, but like it eats up all my margin. Like customers don't understand why we can't be competitively priced sometimes, depending on, their level of education about the food system. And so like, even comparatively to other people who are, using processors in different states, like it's a huge chunk of my price per pound to the customer. And I'm like I can't control that part. All I can do is like lower my profit margin, which I'm not excited to do,
Catherine, what's your cost per animal on processing right now?
Around 800. Yeah. And that's like for like 400 pounds of of finished weight.
Yeah, we'd be similar to that in conversion. Yeah.
Okay. I just don't think people understand that part of it in terms of like how their food gets to the grocery store. But
Right. Well, I think a lot of this, or a lot of our mission, is just to educate consumers. I mean, some of them I think will come to us educated if they're seeking it out. But I think there's also a huge opportunity to just make people aware of what's going on. Because if you're not in the cattle business, you just think, oh, there's not a lot of meat at the grocery store. They don't get the whole why part of it.
Well,
so
that's exactly it. Is they're so used to paying for government subsidized corn fed, grain fed cattle at $2.99 a pound for ground beef, and so that's what they think that ground beef is worth. We, from our flower farm perspective, we deal with the same thing. People want to go to Trader Joe's and buy a bouquet of flowers for $2.99, $3.99 that's shipped here from South America, and they've figured out that that's what the price is. So now when we're trying to sell a bouquet for almost $20 because that's what it costs to produce, they look at us like we're nuts.
Brian, go ahead.
Back to the marketing thing, farmers market. To me, there's only two reasons to be at a farmer's market. One is to just get your farm name out there, do the PR, and to steal as many ideas as you can from other farmers, because it's one of the best places to learn how to market. Whether someone else is selling bread or cheese or flowers or whatever, you really get to see what's working and what isn't. I hate farmers markets, and I just can't be bothered with people trying to negotiate my price and asking questions, and they're not going to buy it, the product anyway. And we've always calculated if you didn't sell for $2,000, you wasted your time on the dollars and cents of it. But the learning part of it it's phenomenal. The lessons you can learn at a farmer's market. It costs us about it costs us about $1 a pound for processing. We're lucky. The slaughterhouse is 20 minutes from here. They actually come pick up the animals, and it's the cutting plant at the same time. So I believe we probably have some of the best located and best advantages in North America. We have about 6 cutting plants around here. We don't have enough slaughter facilities, but we have a tremendous advantage there.
I think I'm a weird producer because I actually like the farmers markets, but I totally agree with what Brian said. It's not the most profitable, but it's good to network and get your name out there for sure. I'd love to hear what, maybe this isn't the right forum for it or not, but Bridget, you mentioned customer education and how that's a focus. I'd love to hear more about how people are doing that well, but maybe more specific to this topic. I'm curious what people are using for their sales channels, as far as if your online presence, where you're putting your energy and where you're seeing the most fruit.
Mm-hmm. Now for us, we're pretty much just using social media exclusively, through Facebook mostly, and website, directing from Facebook to the website for traffic. And it seems to be working pretty good, but I'd be interested to see what other people are doing for different creative ideas.
Aaron, who hosts your website? I'm just curious.
Well, our own website, I do it myself through Wix.
Wix, cool. I have a Wix website too.
Yep.
And that's what we're going with right now. We've had a site designed and it's running through Wix. I think it's interesting because I feel like we haven't really told many people it's out there yet, because our model is to put it on Facebook and Instagram, and that's how we're going to advertise. But I can't really test that out, so I have no idea how well that's going to work. I can't test it out because I'm not ready to start taking orders yet. And so that is definitely what we're hoping works well. If not, then we may be in farmers markets, and around here there's a gazillion farmer markets you can do. I'm hoping, just because there's only a certain capacity that we can do this year. We're probably about 16 animals this year that we can harvest. And so next year we'll be up to closer to 50, but I want to kind of control how much it's out there, but at the same time, I may need to do a lot more. I don't know how, and I am not a social media person. That has been a huge learning curve for me, is to figure out how to do all of that.
Well, so with social media, Facebook and Instagram, you have to be careful because you don't own the platform, and they're not necessarily friendly to ag. And so you have to be really careful about maintaining your audience there, because I've heard of people just losing their farm page. It's just gone. So my advice to any producers who are starting is focus on an email list because you own it. And in the future, it's always free to target those people. You don't have to
Mhm.
pay for ads. The other thing about social media is that unless you're paying for ads, you can't really control who sees you. The algorithms are always changing, and sometimes your reach is really narrow, not the best.
Yes, yes. And that's why I'm curious to see how that works, because everything will drive them to our website and hopefully we can build up our contact base from there. But getting it out there initially, I think may be a challenge, because I've on some of the different sites I've seen that Facebook can block a lot of your posts.
Mike?
Yeah, on that, you know, I mean, Facebook, Instagram, all of that is super important, but it's important to get them off of there and, like you said, onto your website where you can start capturing data.
Mhm.
You know, email lists are the gold standard, but text phone numbers are the diamond standard. If you can get their permission to text, you can see really high conversions, because you know, if you can get an open rate of an email at 40%, you're doing pretty good. Text open rates are in the 80 to 90% range. So being able to text your customers gets you a lot more. We bought our cattle company from somebody who I found on TikTok, who I thought was an amazing TikToker, and he decided to move from Oregon to Texas. And so we bought his Oregon operation, and he's getting restarted in Texas.
Oh, wow.
That's clever. Nice.
On TikTok, he's called Fire and Salt Cattle. His name is Hobbs, and his big thing is the environmental impacts of free ranging and grass fed. And so he has somewhere in the neighborhood of 250,000 TikTok followers. Yeah.
Wow.
So we were able to buy 1,000-person email list from him, and, you know, a lot of brand recognition from him when he moved.
Yeah. I mean, smart people, you know, they use their money in exchange for time, right? Like it would take so long to build that from scratch. And so that's really clever. Cool.
So can I ask on the texting, is that through a platform, or how do you, I know like there's MailChimp and Constant Contact and stuff like that for the email, but how do you do the texting?
So you can do it through Shopify, and
Okay.
that's who we're using. And actually, I'm closing my my Wix email or web page, because Shopify gives you a free page if you're using them. So if I'm already using them to do my ordering and my web commerce, then I might as well just jump on and get the free store or the free web page out of it too.
Yeah, I mean, the only downside I've heard of that related to that can be, I hear that Shopify is not as useful or competitive with local search rankings, you know, coming up on, you know, Google searches. So I have a Wix website, but I send my orders to my Square store.
Okay.
I know a lot of people who use Shopify and like it. I think if you're not going to be shipping, I don't see the benefit of Shopify personally. But
yeah, I don't know. He was using farm to table or barn to table.
Barn to door.
And it was $100 a month. And for selling, realistically selling beef 1 or 2 months a year, it did not make sense to me to be spending $100 a month on a barn to door account.
my Square store costs me $16 a month.
Yeah, Shopify is about 30.
Yeah,
And
but
then
I don't know. I just like having my Wix website because I've had it indexed on the search engines the longest. And so I don't really want to move it, even though there are other platforms that I like better. But I don't use Square Store or Wix for their e-commerce. I didn't see the value. But
So you said $16 a month. That's your base monthly fee. But what about percentage on transaction or per transaction fee?
yeah, it's around 3%. But I mean, I just look at that as the cost of doing business. Anywhere you swipe a card, they're gonna take a fee. And so I don't even really like.
Yeah, fair enough. We're not doing e-commerce right now. We just take orders and then just do e-transfers. Like customers will e-transfer us money, but
Nice.
yeah, maybe just the business hasn't got to a level where we warranted it yet. But
yeah, well, so I started using Square at the farmers market because they have a really nice POS for that. And then it just kind of naturally fed into my online store.
I have another question that's maybe off topic, so we can certainly revisit the platforms again. But for the ones that do halves and wholes, do you have each customer make their own cut sheet? Do you coordinate that, or do you do that with the processor? And do you have like a, here's our recommended, or here's our default, and if you want to customize, you can? How do you approach that with your customers? For people who have done it, I think it's probably a lot easier. But if we're selling to people who have never, like I had one lady tell me, I've never heard of buying half of beef before. What is that? I mean, she had no idea. And so explaining the process, I think if you're not familiar with it, gets a little confusing. And so we thought about, and I'm thinking the processor would like if we just said, hey, here's our standard cut list. But I'm curious how
Well,
that's handled by other people.
So some people like the fanciness that comes with like custom cutting your own cow. But those are the people who tend to know what they want. So I think, for us, we like to do, if you're buying a half or a whole, you get a custom, I do it by appointment. Like I call them up, we go through the sheet together, and then I get it to the processor because I've seen mixed things happen and it just gets messed up. But if you do a quarter, we have a standard, this is how it's cut, and you get it that way. I know some people who have the customer directly communicate with the processor and they're not involved at all. I think it's just a preference thing. I like the consultative feel, so they feel like I'm the expert about the animal and about the cuts. And I think our processor likes it because I'm taking work off their plate. So.
For
Right.
us,
Yeah. I think it would be easier I don't know. I love my processor, but I'm not sure he really wants to take time to talk to all my customers. So just wasn't sure about how that process went.
And I think you're right on the custom quarters are a total nightmare.
Yeah. I think I was recommended on doing that from a old time butcher. He was like, don't do that. Okay.
we have our biggest arguments on our team around personalized cuts. And we still do some, but again, at 125 steers that start to making a lot, we sell a lot of quarters too. Starting this year, we will have 3 standard cuts. I call them a steak, a roast, and a ground, and people just choose from those. There'll be no more personalized. I think if you want to end up getting bumped out from your processor, make them do your cut sheets.
Yeah.
They will eventually hate you. And I think that we have to definitely, if we have to work with the processor a lot more to give them what they need, because if we lose that space, our businesses get very vulnerable.
They
So
have
again,
all
we
the leverage. Oh my
yeah,
God.
yeah, and I think that we have to look at this is it's easy enough if you have 20 or 25 head, but how would you do it if you have 200 or 500? So that's where we are. We can't continually double our time each time we double the amount of animals we're processing. So it might even be streamlined again in another couple of years.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. Ours is, we use a default as well. We've only done custom with a few select customers that we had a good relationship with, and it looked like they would be good returning customers. Then you could build that in, and then they dealt directly with the processor, but not, I'd say 5% of the sales, maybe.
I
Hey,
have
Brian,
seen,
oh, go ahead. I just want to ask
sorry,
Brian a
Aaron.
question after. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I've seen other people use a Google form. It's a link
Mhm.
and they send it, and then they just go through and click, 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 and send it off. I don't know if anyone wants to use that, but I've seen that done. Go ahead. Sorry, Aaron.
My question is to Brian, like, you guys are getting to a size now. Have you guys strategically thought about doing your own processing plant in any way in the future, or not at all? Like, I'm just wondering, as your business grows, that you're getting to some levels there where it could justify it. And I'm just wondering what the thought process was.
We've chatted a couple times, but you don't know me well enough. My values in life is cheap and lazy. So
Hey.
investing investing in a facility would be against my morals in every shape and form. We would be buying a job. We would be doing a poorer job than my professionals would. And I can't see it. Maybe someday, but I would rather find a way to partner with someone that is professional in that. But to do it on our own, I would never even consider it.
Fair enough.
I think if lazy is one of your priorities, you may have picked the wrong career. I feel like there's other fields you could be a little more lazy in than
Well,
ranching.
He's facilitating nature. He's just the he's the conductor. Right, Brian?
the other thing about the custom orders, what we do too is we always have all the cuts and the special cuts on hand. So if people really want 10 tomahawks, we will sell them. If they want those really specific fancy cuts, we have them in the freezer and we'll sell them those. So we really, we make them order something standard, but they can have the extras too.
Yeah, that's interesting. I
Tomahawks
see.
were the best invention ever.
Yeah, convince people to pay for twice as much bone.
Yeah.
I had there was a guy at the farmer's market selling them, and he had like they were like freezer paper wrapped, and I'm like, what? So he couldn't sell them they quickly, the quality dropped so fast. Didn't make any sense. It's like, cool.
Well, and the whole thing with them is the look of them, of how cool they look. So if putting them in paper, you're missing the sales opportunity of, wow, look at this thing.
Yeah,
It's like,
you
what
have to
is
see
that?
them.
For sure. Cool.
I have a question. Has anyone ever used strategic kind of relationships with influencers in any way that have high influence on social media? And so we never have, but it's kind of always been in the back of my mind. How can I do that? Because I know other people do it, but I don't know how to do it.
Sounds like Mike did.
I was just gonna say, I spend a lot of time on social media, and I'm taking a bunch of social media classes to try to be better at this. And the thing is, from everything I can tell, you're not going to get a great return. I mean, and if they're doing it because they want to partner with you and there's a reason for it and there's a synergy, it works. But just finding someone who has a lot of followers does not mean they have a lot of followers who want to eat grass-fed beef. So you would really have to find the right person. Like if you found a competitive barbecue team or somebody, like that you could partner with and send some steaks and they can do a review. It might be worth your while because you're going to get it to the audience that wants to see it. But if it's just someone who has 1 million followers, that's a lifestyle brand or a fashion brand, they're not going to really care. They're not there for the food.
Yeah, I think maybe health or fitness, the right influencer. But I know sometimes if you initially just send them something that doesn't take a lot out of your pocket and they like it enough, you can give them like a discount code where every time someone uses their code, they get a percentage of your sales. And in that way, it becomes kind of like the urban selling club where that person got commission from the sales.
Yeah, affiliate marketing.
Yeah. Well, so that way it's less risk and it's less upfront.
Along that topic, I have a question. So at least in our area, we're a little bit unique in that we only do beef. Most people who are doing this do beef and chicken and pork or lamb or something. We only do beef, just how we're set up. And so I've thought about partnering with someone who may only do chicken. I'm curious if anyone has ever made any kind of alliances like that, because I get people when people find out we're doing beef, they'll say, "Oh, do you do chicken?" I'm like, "No." And so I'm guessing that people who just do chicken probably do pork also. But here at least, you have to have a lot more space to do beef. And so just curious but we're so young in it. I don't know how to approach that with them. but I wonder if that's common for
No,
people to partner up like that.
I think that's a great idea. I think that you're going to get synergy, you know, and you can even offer like, hey, can I buy your chickens at wholesale and be able to sell them to my customers and basically present it as an opportunity for them to make a sale. And then they may say, okay, great. Can we do the same with your beef? And you can be
Mhm.
selling other, or, you know, just being able to put each other's stuff on the website and, you know,
Yeah.
and sell. But I for sure see that. We are only doing beef right now. And my partners come from a sheep family. And so we'll be adding lamb probably in 23.
Yeah, so my personal feeling on this is that I think that the local food scene, this is the biggest opportunity for like us to shake up the market, because people are all about convenience. They want their shopping experience to be like going on Amazon. And so if they have to find their chicken guy and their cow lady and their pig
Mhm.
person, like they're just, I'm sorry, we're not that committed. We're busy. So they're just gonna like go to the grocery store. But do you guys have any local food hubs in your communities that are already kind of doing this?
I was a founding member of an online market 12 years ago. We're about 60 producers that everything is bought online and we deliver once a week to that. It's a great concept. The problem is that people want to get involved in these type of organizations without any background. No one knows how to manage people. Managers come and go. Every time we have a new manager, the values change, everything changed. So we've struggled the market. The market itself probably sells between $15,000 and $20,000 a product a week, which isn't bad. But again, that has worked okay. But the management of it is always the big question, because co-ops have not a new idea in the country, but people jumped on the bandwagon of co-ops in the city, but really didn't understand that you might have to work and do something when you're involved in a co-op. And so they don't seem to last very long in them.
There's
But
a very
that's
high fail rate with these things.
yes, yeah, there it is. We've kept this one together, but we've struggled to keep profitable on it. I was on the board for 9 years, and I fought because apparently people think profit is a bad thing when you're and so I was the one and only that just battled profit, and I just gave up on it at the end. But the concept was really good.
We have a few in Montana that are starting to have success, but yeah, I mean, I've been involved in one that did not succeed, and I just think, you know, if you can get the logistics and the people part figured out, that I think it just has a lot of opportunity to shake up the market, because you're keeping a lot. I mean, if it's working, you're keeping a lot of the profit with the producers, right?
Well, and it sounds like this urban selling club, which is kind of a hybrid of a farmer's market and the neighborhood drop-offs. It sounds like if you could find someone in each little area to take several different farmers things, that might be a good setup too.
Yeah.
And
And
it's obviously a much smaller scale.
I think so I feel like there's a lot of opportunity with vegetable farmers, and I don't know why, but it's just like, it seems like there's competition in the meat market, with like people are afraid of working with each other because they're like afraid of stepping on each other's toes or something. But a lot of the vegetable farmers don't seem to feel that way. And so they're like, yeah, I grow vegetables and I'm not selling meat. So like, if you want to offer my customers meat, great. And so it feels like there's more opportunity there, but I don't, maybe I'm wrong. Because I mean, a lot of the vegetable farmers that are doing the CSAs successfully, I mean, that's a match made in heaven, because the frozen, subscription style, like meat drop off is like a perfect fit for that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just back to the chickens, we buy in all our chickens from one of our friends who does grass chickens, and they're the best margin we have on anything. Even better, you make a special for a weekend or two, you have all your chickens bought and sold before you have to pay them. We get 30% on those chickens, and it just, people walk out with the chicken. They come in for beef and they walk out with the chicken. I think the more products that we can have, people are going to leave with more dollars from our farm.
Brian, I know this is kind of backtracking, but I'd be super interested to visit with you about your custom grazing, because like I started with the cow calf operation, but I had to move away from that. Just it was stretched too thin, cash flow wise and whatnot. So like I'm trying to focus on finishing, and I'm having a hard time finding a producer to sell me their yearlings, or one that like fits with my standards of how they should have been raised the first year. Struggling with that. I don't know. It's kind of an odd concept in my area. Everyone just kind of does the same thing as a cow calf operator, but trying to find traction with someone.
So there we're in the presence of an elite cow calf breeder here tonight, so he might be able to speak more to this, but I've been doing this for 20 years and I still haven't been able to build a relationship. My suppliers continually change from year to year. We offer bonuses. We try to buy only heifers now because of the spread in the dollars. We offer them a really good bonus. I've never been able to get a calf supplier to actually come to the farm to look at their animals to see what they're doing. Never has one of them ever asked me how they did at the end of the season. There's a mentality in general that once they leave the gate, they don't care. And they're not really that interested. I worked with one guy for a fairly long time, and we almost had exactly the cow that we needed, a good small Angus cow. The next year when we had enough cows like that, he brings them down with a huge Simmental bull. He knew exactly what I need. I was his biggest customer. There's not a lot of understanding in general in cow calf producers of what the market is looking for. They're farming for passion, and their passion changes color almost every couple of years. So I still struggle with that. That's one of the biggest. My daughter just came back from Ranching for Profit for a couple of weeks ago, and we struggle with, like, why don't I just go to Manitoba and buy all my calves? It'll be 16 or 18 or 24 hours of, but we can get by the truckload, by the exact same size, by the exact same color from professional breeders. I am stuck on the local thing. My daughter isn't anymore. So we've got a big decision in the next little while.
Yeah.
Anything to add, Aaron?
I'm not really sure. We don't have to source genetics. I mean, we have our own. We have 600 cows, so we have no shortage of cattle internally to direct market our beef. What we've done is not really had, like, we don't have, calves that we wean that go into a grass finish program. We just we take our young opens, and they're fat enough if you give them the full season till fall, and then you can kind of, you can't process them all at once, but then you can have a holding area, and then you can process them over the winter. But it's a way of value adding our cull cows. And they some of them are over 30 months, but it doesn't matter to us, and they taste amazing. And so that's kind of our way of selling animals and value adding to our culls, instead of having a designated grass finish young animal program.
Aaron, let me ask you this, since you're like, your mindset's the kind of guy I want to talk to, but in my area, if I found somebody like you who didn't have any interest in finishing his own, he like didn't want to do the direct market thing, not interested. if I was like, hey, I'll do that for you, you would be most interested in selling those open heifers. That's your animal that you don't have a purpose for, kind of thing.
Well, it's easy because they're okay, they're open. Well, then you just have to wait a little while till they're fat and you can sell them. If you go to somebody and you say, well, I want to buy finished steers off you. Well, he said, well, okay, you can come get them, but it's going to be 2 years. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of planning that goes into that because, you know, they've got to get to like 24 to 28 months before they're finished properly. And there's a lot of forecasting and planning that goes into that. So that was one thing you could do is find producers in your area that have the right type of animal and that are more, you know, in our line of thinking, and then just ask them, well, what do you do with your young cows that come open?
Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question about that. I'm just curious. So when you say that you finish them, you get them when they're finished, and so you just have them processed?
No, I really want to build up the soil health with like high density and like intensive grazing, but I don't have the infrastructure to have the bull and to take care of the mama cows all year long. So I want like a herd of, you know, yearlings that I can just intensively graze and finish and then market.
So you would keep them. So I guess in that scenario, Aaron was talking about, would you not just take the steers?
I can't find, no one will sell me them. I can't find, not the right animal. I mean, you know, so I'm struggling finding that.
Can I ask, Brian, you said, do you guys just do steers and not heifers?
I do. I want to only do heifers.
Yeah. Okay. That makes more sense to me. I mean, they finish quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we like to get them out, most of them out in 18 months. And the heifers we can do it. The steers, we can't really get them.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's annoying too when you find the like genetics you want, but you know, I'm like, oh, I'm not a cow calf producer anymore. Can't do anything about it. Anyway.
Catherine, what Montana are you in?
I'm in Big Timber, so it's between Billings and Bozeman, kind of near Yellowstone.
Okay, because we have a good calf producer in Eastern Oregon. So I mean, it's far for you, but it's not far for you.
Right.
Another idea would be I know even in Montana, there are like seed stock producers that sell bulls that are the right type of animals.
Yeah.
And just have a conversation with one of those guys and you know, you don't have to buy a bull, but just say, look, this is kind of what I'm thinking. Do you have any customers of yours that you sell bulls to that might be able to fill my needs and that I could have a relationship with? And that would be a good starting point.
That's a great idea. Thank you.
So Catherine, I'd like to get back to your, I'm Randy, I'm not Margaret. That's my wife's phone.
What's that? I missed it. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm Randy Horton.
Hey.
No, that's my wife's phone.
Oh yeah, you're not Margaret. I put that.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
But get back to the grass finishing and the pasturing. I do a rotational grazing with, I have 26 pastures.
Nice.
And they get fresh grass every morning. I take them to a fresh pasture, and that really, you know, works the soil good, spreads the manure out everywhere. And my cows are doing really well on that
Nice.
for the grass finishing.
It's awesome. Cool. We'll have to have another topic. What do you guys, anyone have an opinion on what our next session should be about? About grazing? Love grazing.
Grazing's always a good one.
I know, right? Okay. Well, I don't know how you guys feel. I don't want to cut anyone off, but I do want to see how Green Bay and the 49ers are doing. So are you guys good? Don't spoil it for me. I don't know the score. Cool. Okay. This should have been recorded, and I think it was also broadcast live on the Facebook group. So if you know, if there's a resource or something that you want to track down later, it should be available.
Thanks for organizing us, and thanks for sharing, everybody. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. If anyone wants to look at what Kim is doing, it's Ferme Briley, Brylee. Ferme is the French word for farm.
Cool.
Yes, thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks. It was good.
See ya.
Thanks for.
Well
Good luck to
organized.
you,
Thank
Ross.
you.
Good, thank you.